Hello everyone, I'm Nonye and welcome to my channel, Chat with Nonye. I want to start by saying a very big thank you to everyone that sent in their comments, love, support, and suggestions over our last conversation, career path. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. Today is going to be very, very interesting. Yes, we're going to be navigating a very important topic. Important, and yet parents, especially mothers, avoid having such conversations with our children. Here with me doing us the honor is Sarah Udoh-Grossfurthner. Thank you so much, Sarah. Sarah is an author, writer, coach, a mother, all packed in one. And the name of her brand is called From Fearful to Fierce. I'm going to give Sarah the opportunity to tell us what her brand is all about. Sarah?
Well, from fearful to fierce, it's about the deliberate, intentional, and consistent actions we take daily or should take daily. I like to emphasize that point. Should take daily to become the version of ourselves that we like, a version that we're proud of, a version rather that we can look in the mirror and say, okay, this is who you are, Sarah, for example. You're not perfect, that I like what I'm seeing.
Same.
Not just physically, but internally. I like who you are as a person. So that's what From Fearful to Fierce is. And the whole thing began years ago. I think maybe that's going to be a topic for another discussion. The name is taken from, I always say to people that my work is all about life. People ask me, what do you write about? And I say, I write about life. And of course, it will go without saying that my brand, it's about life. It's about an actual event. It's about overcoming fear. Fear that would just have maybe like floored some people completely. That did floor me at some point. But it's about overcoming that and being the person that I am today, unapologetically, fearlessly so, fiercely so.
Wow.
Not perfect,
Okay.
but someone that lives life intentionally. Maybe sometimes not placing to others, but like I always say that if I do not like who I am, how can I then try to get people to like me?
That's true.
Because I have to like me, right?
That's true.
And so in order for me to like you, everybody expects to be liked, right? If you're interacting with someone, expect that you like them. So if I'm interacting with my kids, they expect that I like them, I love them,
true.
right?
That's true.
Or with my friends, they expect that I like them, love them. And so there are those expectations. But before I can truly like them the way they like to be liked, people like to be liked sincerely, I need to like myself sincerely. So it's From Fearful to Fierce is about authenticity in its rawest form. Authenticity that says, look at you, Sarah, you're not perfect, but you're a work in progress. And where you've gotten to so far, the progress that you are so far, you like that progress.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. That's good to know. So, it's all about sex education today. Can you give us a sneak peek of what sex education is all about? What it really means?
Like I said, I think we had this discussion before, and I said to you that if my grandmother were here,
Yeah.
very old school, and I was asked this question, she would look at me like, okay, is this something that I should know? Why is she asking you
That's
to
true.
talk about sex? Are you now an expert on sex education? But anyway, I like to say that sex education, the way I see it, is a sexual interaction between, or sexual knowing, understanding, and knowing between two people. And like I said before, I would want to say male and female, but the way things are going these days,
That's true.
I don't want it to seem as if, okay, you think this is just between it's
Yeah.
again, I'm not promoting whatever is out there,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to acknowledge that this is,
Yeah.
and then it's the truth.
Yeah.
Sex happens, whether you are proof of who with whom is happening, amongst whom is
Yeah.
happening, you know, it's relevant. The fact is that it happens. And
Yeah.
so sexual education is the knowing and understanding of that sexual activity or activities between two human, not just human beings, actually, maybe even non-human beings,
Yeah.
anything that's living.
Yeah.
But
That's
since we're
true.
talking humans here, so let's just say,
Restricted
yeah,
to
yeah,
humans. Good.
to human
Okay,
beings.
so why do
Mm.
you think it's such a difficult conversation to have with our children, especially mothers?
Oof. I think I'm going to talk about culture a bit, and also going to talk about religion.
Okay.
You see, I come from a culture where they are Calabar Kwaibo people,
Mm-hmm.
where we are taught, we have this thing that we used to call the fattening room.
Yeah.
And during this process, women, it was a coming of age for young ladies. And the coming of age means that you were taught how to be with a man, not just physically,
Mm-hmm.
but how to be emotionally, how to be financially, how to be a homemaker in every sense.
Mm-hmm.
And a homemaker, not just saying, okay, take care of the children, have babies, dress them, bath them,
Mm-hmm.
feed them, but a homemaker in very holistically,
Yeah, it
in
is
the sense that you were taught how to manage
your home.
your home.
Yeah.
Because what if your husband is not there for whatever reason? You were taught to manage
Yeah.
your home in every sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so during this time, we were taught by the elders of the society, the women elders. They were seen as a custodian of the culture, what we believe. So we were taught that how to be with a man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how sometimes you hear about the Calabar Kwaibon people. And
Yeah.
I say again, and sometimes people think that the Calabar Kwaibon people, I've had people say, yeah, the women of Calabar, they have something they are doing in the food for the men.
Mm-hmm.
I said before, I think that's pure nonsense. Like I said, when you treat someone like their king,
Yeah.
how do you think? What do you think? How do you think they're not going to stay? They will. I mean, that's not to say that you can do
It's
all
not a
that and they will still say
guarantee.
it's not a
It's not
guarantee,
a
but
guarantee.
it's high percentage of the time that
Yeah, they'll
when you
stay.
treat them that like they're the sun, the moon, the stars, everything combined, they're going to stay. And that's how we were raised in our culture to treat them. And in fact, they used to say even Obong means my king. That in my grandmother's time, you have they would actually call the husband Obongme, like you're my king. But the thing here is that I have to start here and say that a king needs a queen, right? So
Yeah.
at the same time that you're king, you're expected to treat the woman
As a queen.
as a queen as
Yeah,
well.
that's true.
And so it's a very cultural thing that we were um, taught this way to be with a man, or the sexual education
Mm-hmm.
with a man. But on the other side, the religious part that I want to bring in,
Mm-hmm.
why it might be very difficult,
Difficult.
why it's a difficult thing. I think you asked me why it's a difficult
Mm-hmm.
thing
To have such
for
conversation.
these days. It's because I would say culturally, mothers are afraid to have this conversation. They think that if they teach their kids the knowing, the understanding of sexual, intercourse between a man or woman, or activities, however you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
they think it's going to make their kids promiscuous.
Yeah.
And it's kind of very, very wrong. Because as a mother, you expect your child will go into a home and have a good home when they're old enough to marry. And part of having a good home, you cannot. What does that really mean? It's not just about go there and manage the home and have babies. The baby's even going to come in the first place. Sex is going to play a very, very important part.
Vital.
So you see, mothers expect their kids to go into homes and be perfect husbands, perfect wives,
Wives.
perfect wives to their husbands, but they don't teach their kids anything about anything, because they think I don't want, am I trying to tell my child to just be having sex, But they're going to have sex whether you like it or not. So why don't teach them basic things that they need to understand what it means to have responsible sex and what it means to have irresponsible sex as well, whether in the constitution of marriage or outside of it. Because I always tell people, you know what? When a child is old enough to start knowing man or woman thing, whether you like it or not, they're going to want to explore.
Definitely.
Sex is something, as much as people make it look like a taboo, in fact, the more you make it look like a taboo thing,
the more they want
the
to
more,
explore.
like raising a child. You've even seen a child, you say to your child, don't touch that. The moment you move away, they want to touch it so that they know. Okay. And sometimes you say, okay, like that, touch it so that, like a child will put on, it's okay, so that you know what it means. Why I said don't touch it. They're going to want to know. So instead of just sending them off like that, in the guise that I don't want them to promiscuous, teach them. You're not teaching them to go out and just be all over the place, but teach them what it means to have responsible sex and irresponsible sex, because you're preparing them. And the reason that is difficult to know that, like I said, it culturally, is that within our society, we have come to this belief that, if I teach my child sex education, I'm basically telling them to just go out and sleep around. So why should I teach them that kind of, when it's immoral to just go and be sleeping around? So you will leave them completely clueless. On the religious part, we come from a culture that's very spiritual, very religious. From the get-go, there are certain churches in Nigeria where even within the churches, adult men and women are not allowed to mix.
Sit together.
They do things differently. But
true.
At the same time, you're teaching the importance of marriage. At the same time, they cannot interact. This one has to sit that way. You have to be monitored so you don't have sex. And you're thinking to yourself, how then do you expect these people to now come together and see sister meets brother, come together happily ever after, and then they're home? They come into home and then be very happy into the home. When you've not allowed that. I bet now things are changing, thank God, because there are certain church leaders who are understanding this. But I still think that the education still needs to go further than it's going now. And so that's why it's very difficult. We come from a very religious, spiritual society, and it's a good thing. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing, but anything that is done in extreme,
it's bad.
It's bad.
Very bad.
If you're going to say sex education, I say don't teach so that they don't become, it's bad, because it's like sending someone into a lion's den.
Yeah.
These kids are not going to be with you forever. They are going to go off to school, even in secondary school. They will still going to go there. In university, they're going to go there. I'm going to give you a typical example.
Okay.
And this because I want it to be out there so people understand that just blanketing a discussion on sex to your daughters or men are, even because they allow, that's another extreme we'll discuss, that they allow the boys, they just think the boys don't need a sexual education. So like, they are men anyway, they know what to do. As for women, you blanket if we don't want, so they're not. So blanketing that and then expecting that same child to come later into marriage and being happily ever after. How is that going to work? Sex is part of the marriage. It's an important part of the marriage.
That's true.
If you as a mother, if you do not teach your child the fundamentals of that, they're going to learn it somewhere else.
Definitely.
And they're not going to learn it the way that they should learn it, the way that you like them to learn it.
That is true.
And so I sometimes say that the churches in our society, they have a lot to blame. Like, I think if you let me go on, I'm going to go on. But I wanted to cite a very, very live example. I have a family member. She comes from the mother. I come from a very, very spiritual, very faith. I would not call it, because when you say religious, I don't want it to have a negative connotation. My family, they have a deep relationship with God. I like to say that's the difference, They have a deep relationship with God. And in the whole school kind of like certain family members, they came from certain churches that the same thing I was talking about, blanket discussion and said
Yeah.
nobody should talk about this because if you talk about it, you're encouraging the person to be promiscuous. So this family member had a daughter, the only daughter that she had, never discuss anything with her daughter because she doesn't want the daughter to be promiscuous. Guess what happened? Now this child went to visit a cousin, and on getting there, the cousin from the father's side saw her and thought, she's very pretty. And she was just 15.
Oh my God.
And he wanted to try something with her. And she said, no, I don't want to get pregnant. You know what the boy said to her? He said to her, but if you only do it once, you don't get pregnant. It's when you do it many times.
Wow.
The girl was curious. Now, why would a 15-year-old child think that you only have to have sex many times to get pregnant? If a 15-year-old child thinks like that, something is very wrong with the way the mother raised her.
That's true.
And guess what happened? Of course, she tried it, and guess what happened? She got pregnant. But the good thing about this one, it could have turned the other way, was that the boy saw her and thought, this is mine for life. Even when she got pregnant and she was in secondary school, everybody was like going crazy. Even when the mother was confronted that this child could be pregnant, she refused. She lived complete denial. She said, no, it cannot be. I taught my child right. That's what she said. And I was like, do you think that girls who get, pregnant, unplanned pregnancies, and because they were not taught right? It's actually because they were not taught right that they got pregnant.
That's true.
Because if you teach a child the importance of responsible irresponsible sex and irresponsible sex, the child will understand what to do and what not to do. Even if they are put in a situation where they are tempted, they will know the repercussion of having irresponsible sex.
What you just said, now, sorry to cut you short, what you just said now reminds me of a conversation that my mom will always have with us. You understand? When we start saying our monthly flow, she will not say, hey, if a boy should touch your skirt a little, you're pregnant. But that's what she will say. If they touch your skirt a little, you're pregnant.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You understand? That is what she would say. But so that feel like, okay, I don't sit next to a boy, or don't do this, because in your head, that
but did that prevent you from wanting to explore?
You understand? But that's what I'm saying. That I do understand. I do understand the fact that there's a need to have this conversation, but in a way it's kind of difficult because you're telling yourself, okay, how do I go about it? How do I start?
You have to have it. It's not easy. Think about it. I think there's this thing that people always say, it becomes such a cliche. Anything worth doing is worth doing right.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Nobody says it's easy. Even parenting is not easy, even for boys. I was talking about the other side of the boys. We always think that boys don't need sexual education. The reason that the men in our society, they always say, Nigerian men are this, Nigerian men are. How do you think they got that way? The reason that some of our men do silly, irresponsible things is because of the way they've been taught, is the same because of the way we're still teaching them. We always think that sexual education should be taught to girls. What about the boys? What about understanding the importance even of sex?
Yeah.
What about teaching them what it means that sex is not just about the physical thing, it's about the intimacy, the beauty that it can be.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's how you see men go from one to another, because to them they were never taught what sex really means, the beauty that it can be. They just think, okay, fine, I get an erection, I find somewhere to have an outlet. And too bad to whoever I'm having an outlet with. If that person hasn't been taught right, before you know, you have unwanted pregnancies. Either if you come from a certain family, they make you marry the person, or the next thing that you do out of fear, you run away. And then you have a young girl who is barely a child herself, and now she has to deal with this pregnancy. And all of the stigma that comes with that in our society. Once a woman has kids, maybe now it's better, but it's not even. they think, oh, it means she's loose.
That's it.
And it's not loose.
That's true.
What
That's
about
true.
if it was in this, okay, like I was talking about this family member, at 15, she got pregnant. By 16, she had a first child. Was she loose? You look at that girl like that and say, you see on the streets, this little girl, she don't already the like in our society. But you would know that it was just irresponsibility and irresponsible action by her parents. Because if she had been taught right, she would not have gotten pregnant.
So,
and if,
sorry to cut you short. So, at what is the appropriate age to have this kind of conversation?
I think for me, I think that sexual education does not just start when you tell a child, okay, this is what you get pregnant if you do that, so you have intercourse. It starts with you letting the child know her body. It's her body.
That's true.
For the men, letting the child know the body. As at the same time, you're a family for a reason. As the mother is teaching the daughter the knowledge of her body, the father should also be teaching the son the knowledge of his body. Because when you start to have those honest conversations, they're not going to be easy. Along the way, it gets easier. From knowing what the breast is when it comes, your menstrual, whatever, when you start to discuss what, the other parts of the body, and the child starts to grow. And from that, it gets easier. What happens if I have sex, unprotected, apart from getting pregnancy? What about diseases?
Yeah, that's true.
These are all parts of the education of telling the child when you're not responsible sexually, this is what the outcome can be.
Yeah.
And some of those outcomes can be life-threatening.
That's true.
So,
Sorry. So it simply means that this conversation, it's not a one-time thing.
It's no. Oh my God! It's not a. It's a progressive thing. In fact, as long as that woman, the child is in your home, under your roof, it gets to a point where a child becomes an adult, goes out on its own.
That's true.
But as long as that child is within you teach the child. You teach the child until the child understands. And even the idea of sexual education, sexual is all about the body, right? If you don't teach your child the proper knowing of sex, knowing and understanding, even that child, we are talking about one side of being pregnant or diseases, but what about being abused?
Now that's true. That reminds me, there was something I saw on Facebook. Two boys convicted. They tried it on their baby sister. So I guess they saw their uncle watching porn. You understand? And they decided to experiment on their younger sister. In the process, the young girl died. And it became a very serious confusion in the family. And people were like throwing blames around and I'm like, a whole family.
And those other kids, the ones that did not, they are damaged for life, because how do you explain? This is what I'm saying, that it can have very far-reaching implication when you don't do what you should do because you're not comfortable. If you're not comfortable discussing sexual education with your kids, then you're not comfortable being in fact, you should not, you're not ready to be a parent. Because parenting is not just saying I bring a life to the world, they're very pretty, and make them look very pretty. It's a responsibility. There are going to be things that you're called upon to do, which are not going to be comfortable. In fact, majority of the time, parenting is not comfortable at all. I once told someone in a discussion, as if a child has not told you, a teenager especially has not told you, especially in their teenager, that they hate you, you're not doing the right thing as a parent. And she was like, oh my God, why should the dad In fact, it was almost creating a problem until I said to her, go back. Instead of just jumping on my neck, go and rethink that. And she went and rethink and came back and said, no, you're actually right. Because, when you do, it's just about, I always tell people, I said, from fearful to fierce, it's about that, each conversation with yourself, like everything starts with yourself. When you're truly ready to be who you are, unapologetically, fearlessly, and fiercely. It's not just about putting on clothes and say, oh, I look good, making up your face, I look good. It's not about that. When you're ready to be who you truly should be, live life intentionally, it's going to be very uncomfortable.
Definitely.
Because when you're ready to be who you should be, you're going to lose. I tell people,
yeah,
you will lose friends. You will even lose some
you
family.
will shed some weight.
You will lose. You will lose because there are
true.
people who are comfortable with the way that you are on that linear path. The more the minute it seems like you're rising above, whether intellectually, whether physically, emotionally, they're going to feel uncomfortable because they're like, why should she? And they're going to have a problem. So what will happen in that kind of scenario is either you go back to status quo and just be what they're comfortable with, or you say, no, what, heck with this is my life, and you rise. And when you do that, you're going to drop them like, wait, they're going to leave you.
Definitely.
And not just leave you, some of them will leave you comfortably. They will go bad mouthing you.
Definitely.
And if you're not comfortable about that, you may be tempted to just go back just so that nobody thinks bad about you. That's why I say when you are ready to be yourself, you're going to have to accept that you'll be very uncomfortable. The same with parenting. Until you're ready to be willing to accept the uncomfortability of parenting, you're not ready to be a parent. Because being a parent is not comfortable. It's not going to be comfortable at a certain stage. In fact,
it's hard work.
Of course.
It's hard work.
So you cannot be saying, when is it okay to, you're going to be. But the joy of this is like any skill. When you start learning a skill, it's not easy. You're thinking to yourself, will I ever be able to do this? How will I ever even dance? How will I? It looks so complicated. But as you do it, it gets easier. Until you become an expert, you would not. It's hard for you to now think back to a time when you had never was doing this thing. So the same thing with parenting. When you start to have those conversations, you get to a point where it becomes easier and you have a fantastic relationship with your child. True. Do you know my daughter, if we talk about, if you'd be surprised what I talked about with my daughter. Recently, she was asking me, she went on some dating. Anytime somebody toasts my daughter always says, when I say toast, she says, oh my God, mommy, don't say toast. Who says toast? Every time somebody toasts her, I told her, it's my time, accept my phrase, toast. We used to say toast in our days. I said, anytime somebody toasts my daughter, before she properly even drops her phone, I'm the first person she will tell me everything. You are her gist partner. She will tell me, mommy, this guy. She will tell me, I ask questions. We are like friends. I ask her every question. And she tell me. Recently, she had a conversation. I don't know what she did with some friends. And she said, I have to talk to my mom about this. And they're like, you talk to your mother about that? Oh my God, this is embarrassing. Please don't talk to. She said, I talk to my mom about everything. Because you need to get to that point where your child is comfortable about discussing uncomfortable topics with you, because it's a legacy. It's a custodian. When you make your child comfortable discussing certain things about sexual activity with you, you're in a way, it's a back and forth. It's very symbiotic. The way you're teaching her, she's developing confidence, and she will carry it when she has her own kids. And you've given her a very, something that you can't put a price on. She will take it into her future. And she will teach the same to her kids. The reason that we find it very difficult in our time is because of our parents, that you cannot talk about sex. Oh my God, sex. Oh my God, you want her to be in a shower. You don't talk about it.
Probably because some parents too, it's born out of ignorance.
But it's the same thing. It's a custody. You pass it on. Your mother did not teach you. It was a taboo question. Now you don't teach you. And I said taboo. I asked a niece of mine, someone married outside recently, and I started asking, okay, so are you dating? When I asked all my niece, and they all say, oh my God, auntie has come again, I will ask you. I talked to a niece of mine who was in the university. Her mother did not speak to her. My stepbrother's child, her mother didn't speak to her about anything. So I said to her, by the way, are you dating? I always ask them, and they say, oh my God, auntie, why are you always asking? I said, because I want to know. I said, because I'm saving you. She said, oh, she was dating with this guy. I said, how long have you been there? Oh, they started in university. How long? They are 4 years now. She's finished. I said, so what does your mom What has your mom got to say about that? Oh, auntie, I haven't told my mom.
Oof.
You haven't told your mom about dating
Wow.
a guy. So now I started asking her question. Have you met the guy's parent? Oh no, I just know his brother. How many siblings do they have? They're about 7. And you know, how do you know the brother? Oh, when he came to visit, do you know the parents? Oh, I know. No, I don't know. You've dated someone 4 years and you don't know. So what
Wow.
are you guys doing?
Doing.
Are you going to have marriage? Oh, I think that's the understanding. I say it's the understanding. Have you asked him?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that is just we believe that. I said, you don't ask someone, you just blindly thinking that's what you believe that you're going to. I said to her, I'm giving you homework before this week is over. Tap, tap, tap. I wrote it down. These are things you're going to ask this guy. I said, because are you kidding me?
4 years.
9 years down the road, you still be wasting your life. 4 years is a long time.
It's a long time.
I said, let me make this very clear to you. The moment a guy meets a woman that he knows could potentially be a wife, he knows it within, in fact, he knows it like within seconds.
I hear that a lot, but I don't know how true that is.
He knows it.